What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth, to another episode of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, and that is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to the show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro 2_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at ProAnt, PROANT. No underscores there. In this episode of Disguise Coverage, we're going to be diving into the Buffalo Bills run defense versus the Baltimore Ravens in week 1 of the 2025 regular season. I talked about it a bit last week, maybe switching the episode structure of Disguise Coverage in season instead of doing more matchup-based things looking ahead, pivoting and looking towards more schematic and structural and player evaluation pieces from the game or games before. So if this is the kind of content you folks like, please let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments on YouTube if you want me to pivot and go back to the regular preview, matchup, detail, schematic, structural breakdowns for upcoming games. Please let me know. So if you were trying to tune in tonight to be like, oh, where's the in-depth schematic X's and O's matchup for Bills Jets? Not doing that. If you would like that again, please let me know. And if you like this stuff, let me know as well. But what we will be doing in this episode, as I mentioned there in the intro and is exemplified by the title, breaking down the Bills run defense against the Baltimore Ravens. For a lot of it, I thought it was kind of par for the course, whether you view that positively or negatively. We talked about it throughout the offseason, the changes the Bills made up front and where that helped them versus where it may not have. And they leaned more into inside rush and penetration rather than being stout. What does that mean? That means they have the ability to shoot gaps. They have the ability to cause havoc, create tackles for loss, negative plays in general for an offense. But those guys and their body types typically are a little smaller, a little leaner, have a certain play style or skill set or traits to them that doesn't necessarily lend itself towards being able to anchor versus double teams, mitigate displacement, not get blown off the ball. And we saw some of that on the interior defensive line against the Ravens. We also saw some poor run fits from a gap perspective, multiple guys in the same gap and just a lot of ugliness, but we also saw some good at the same time. So I wanted to get into that in this game because it was such a talking point coming out of it. I think it would be obviously an even bigger talking point had the Bills lost. Winning seems to, the old adage, winning cures all, and the Bills won this game. And I think for a lot of fans, it is, potentially, hey, it's 1-0. Let's fix the bad stuff, but let's maybe focus on the good a little more than the bad. But this is something that I'm pretty passionate about. I've spoken about it all offseason and just with how the game kind of went. Again, according to plan for what I thought for how the Bills run defense would perform. I wanted to talk about it in this episode and break some of it down. And I think also within that as well, I do want to preface this whole episode by saying run fits, and I've said it on the show a bunch. I've said it in the film room. I've asked players this question when Eric and I have had them in the film room. Run fits are scientific. It is a very coordinated dance amongst everyone on the entire defense. It takes every single person doing their job and executing. Not everyone's job is to go in and make the tackle. You've got force players, you've got spill players, there's just a multitude of roles, assignments, responsibilities, how you're fitting the run from a 2-high structure versus a single high, the type of front that you have, and 1 gapping versus gap and a half versus 2 gapping. And there's more things even there. I can just keep rattling off like terms, techniques, and terminology and verbiage and all that. Breaking down the science of run fits really does deserve its own full episode. That could probably be like a 45-minute to like hour and 15 long episode just on how run fits and how they work from the multitude of alignments, how coverage fits into that, how coverage dictates the run fit, box numbers, neutral box, light box, stack box, 7-man spacing, 8-man, all that kind of stuff. We're going to get into some of that in this episode tonight because I do think it puts things into perspective for why we saw what we saw, how things played out, the hows, the whys, the whats, all that kind of stuff. But, I do think it deserves a further deep dive. Maybe that's something we'll get into in season, maybe in a bye week, maybe in the off season. But I am going to get into some of that throughout this episode while also kind of breaking down what we're seeing, players' roles, responsibilities, kind of what went wrong, what went right, all that kind of stuff. So this will be a very heavy film episode diving into this. Myself and Eric will obviously be doing the film room tomorrow, Wednesday, September 10th. We're going to be focusing more on the offensive side of the ball there in the film room. So I figured do some defensive stuff here. Eric did a film room feature on Ed Oliver. I wanted to focus on the run defense here in disguise coverage. And then Eric and I will be doing a full offensive film room tomorrow in the film room. As always, questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, put them into the chat. We have a pretty decent sized amount of plays to go through in this game. I grabbed 13 that I thought were pretty representative, both positively and negatively for what I wanted to talk about tonight in this episode. But as I'm going through, because this is like a heavy film based episode, if I miss someone's comment, if I miss your question, your thought, your comment, please do forgive me. I'm going to be looking on this screen over here, diagramming and pulling things up over here. So if I do miss something, I sincerely apologize. I will be trying to get to as many things possible, humanly possible, as I possibly can. I'm going to grab some comments here before we start. Just Typical News says Edmonds needs to make more splash plays. I like that. RJ says the best comeback as a Bills fan since I was a kid watching the greatest comeback game in the 90s. Very fair. Very fair. I like this comment. All the blueberries in my kingdom for a Zion Lowe call up. I don't think it's going to happen, but I respect that you want that and keep going through with that. Kevin says, was Leslie Frazier that good? I think Leslie Frazier is a good coach. I think he got a bit of a bad rap. But you did see some similar struggles that they have now versus what they did then. But I mean, he was a very well-traveled and seasoned coach. I think he was a good coach who just kind of unfortunately got associated with a bad performance at the end more so than anything. I'm glad the comment. I'm glad we don't have to play the Ravens 16 more times. Kay Amori, what's up, Kay Amori? Kay Amori says, an already questionable on-paper defense getting predictably shredded maybe isn't as bad as Baltimore's supposed stacked defense being shredded. Shrug emoji. Maybe it's cope. Yeah, I think you can kind of play devil's advocate to either side of that. I do think, too, there are some, not to play this card, but I mean, the tip ball from Keon Coleman, or the tip ball touchdown to Keon Coleman, the fumble by Henry, maybe that game ends differently and the Bills only do put up 25 points if those like two huge momentum turning plays don't happen. But yeah, definitely not a good performance, especially with how they started out and kind of just faded and faltered at the end. Bullish Bill LaBill says, what is everyone's call on that Bishop blitz play? I think it was blown play calling. I do want to talk about this quickly. Actually, well, I don't because I'm annoyed by it, but I will because it's a good question. The Cole Bishop play, essentially what happened, I don't have that play to break down here. I posted on social. I saw a bunch of comments on it. The Bills get caught. They get quick counted. So before they can get set, the defensive line isn't even in their stances. Like Joey Bosa's about to put his hand into the ground. So is Ed Oliver. The Ravens quick count. Like they snap it before the Bills defense is ready. On the back end, I'm guessing they probably wanted to get into a disguise. The Bills love the disguise coverage. They hold one look right on the snap and then spin their safeties. They switch. They like to change the pre to post snap picture on the back end from a coverage shell and coverage standpoint. What happened was not just Bishop, but everybody in the defense, they quick snap, Ravens quick snap. The Bills aren't ready. They kind of get caught out. Cole Bishop is super, super deep, miles away from the ball. He's supposed to blitz. He blitzes anyway, doesn't come close to getting Lamar. It's a big completion for the Ravens. I saw a lot of comments on the play of if he was smarter, he would have done something different. He should have just went rogue. He should have ad-libbed. Literally, those are all like different verbiage and recommendations that were said for the play when I posted it on social. And I want to say a couple things with that. One, in Sean McDermott's defense, you don't go rogue like that. He predicates his defense on all the players being responsible and being where your teammates expect them to be. If he wants you to be in spot A, you need to be in spot A. You do not go rogue, first and foremost. Do guys do it from time to time? Sure, but not with regularity. Second, within that, in this specific instance, if Cole Bishop is blitzing and they quick count him and he goes to blitz and he's like, this isn't going to work, you really still do need to carry through with your assignment. You can't just be like, I don't think the blitz is going to work. Let me drop off into coverage and do something else. You can't have guys going rogue and just kind of freelancing and freestyling because, you know what, I don't think this play call is going to work. Let me go do something else. That's a rough precedent to set. And it's not ideal because if you do that and you're not where you're supposed to be, Are other guys trying to read off you? Even just that, like I saw people saying, well, he shouldn't blitz. He should just sit and stay in coverage. But are you still expecting someone else to read that coverage that he's doing? How much confusion does it cause? It sets a potential negative chain reaction going through. And then the other comment within that of, if he was smarter, if he was like Hyde or Poyer, he could have just gone rogue. He could have done something else. I think that whole like going rogue aspect, or, after the snap or on the snap, realizing something's not going to work and freelancing and doing something else, that gets blown out of proportion of how much that happens. Even the best guys like Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu as safeties who freelanced a bunch, quote unquote, those weren't so much like freelances and going rogue as it was them making educated guesses off of their feel for the game and all of the tape study. So it might look like, oh man, he blew coverage to go make a play, but it's something they read. It's something they studied. It's something they felt, and being active and going to it. That's completely different than, hey, I'm supposed to blitz on this play. Uh-oh, I think I'm too far away. Let me not blitz and drop into coverage. And then you're also assuming too, like he drops in the right spot, is able to affect the throw in some way. I wanted to say all that just because I know it's been talked about to death on social. But essentially, yeah, they called the play. The Bills weren't ready because the Ravens quick snapped them. The Ravens varied their cadence and their snap counts throughout the night, including on the very first play of the game, which we are going to show here tonight, trying to catch the Bills out. They did from time to time. And on that one, yeah, if you watch it, again, I put it on my Twitter. I put it on Blue Sky. If you see it somewhere else, you watch the defensive line. If like that's the easiest thing. A bunch of them aren't set. Like Joey Bosa is literally kind of getting set and going to put his hand to the ground. And it's like, oh, and then you can even watch Bishop. When Bishop goes, you can literally like body language, watch him be like, oh, SHIT. Like you can watch him be like, oh, like I got to go. Cause they weren't ready. They got quick counted. It is what it is. And then again, you're not going to go rogue. Like if there's a play call and you're not just going to be like, uh-oh, I don't, and the snap happens on the snap, you're not going to be like, I don't think this play call is going to work. Let me go do something else. That's just not how it works. Les Brown says, or he could be in position to blitz when it's called. Sure. But if you're trying to disguise the look pre-snap, you don't necessarily want to do that. The Bills, and this isn't just a Bills thing. This is a lot of NFL defenses now. They're trying to disguise coverage. They're trying to disguise their fronts. So you're trying to show one thing and then on the snap, pivot or spin to something else. So you're showing A to make the offense think A is coming. And then on the snap, you're going to shift to B or C or D or some other letter. So the Bills, I think, were trying to disguise what they were doing, trying to hold it until the snap and then execute on the snap. But the ball got snapped before they could do anything. So essentially the call was what the call was. I don't think Bishop, and let me also say this. Maybe there is a chance, just to play devil's advocate, because I'm not in the huddle. I don't know the play call. I don't have the playbook, but maybe he is supposed to be closer to the line already or closer to the box. Maybe he was too deep, but what it looks like was happening. They were trying to disguise the look, bring Bishop on the snap, shift Taylor Rapp over to the post. They wanted to disguise the pressure look that they brought. In order to disguise that, you have to show one thing, hold that look as long as possible until the snap, and then spin to the actual thing that you're going to do on the snap. So that way you confuse the offense or try to change the pre to post snap picture. I don't think it was on Bishop as much as it was the Ravens just caught the Bills. Like that's what it was. And you just tip your cap. Hey, good job with the quick count. You got us. I don't think Bishop was necessarily out of position. I don't think he should have done something different on the snap. He got caught out. So did the whole defense. But essentially it was a quick snap. But good question. And Pete says, a safety blitz is going nowhere without a disguise. Very fair point. James says Belichick feared Ed Reed more than Horned Frogs. I like it. Yeah, fair. Okay. Let's dive into the tape. Again, I sincerely apologize ahead of time. If I don't see certain comments, put them into the YouTube comments after. I will get to them. Get at me on social. Get at me in the Discord if you're an insider, whatever it is. I know with me being in the tape and drawing through things and wanting to get through this decently fast and efficiently without being here for an hour and 45 minutes, that means there's a chance I'm going to miss some comments or thoughts in the chat. So apologies if that happens. But let us share. Also, if anybody's watching post live, The NFL is being super awesome with dinging a bunch of film footage and clips. So if I get dinged, there's a chance I might like fight the ding, and or if they're small, I might clip out some small segments to edit it to be in alignment with copyright infringement, even though there is no copyright infringement here because this is being used for educational purposes. But if you're watching post live and you see like, oh, that looked like it jumped 5 seconds or 3 seconds, that might be why. Annoying and not ideal, but such is life. All right, let's dive into the tape. I'm going to be showing a lot of these plays from the sideline angle. Make this go full screen there. I'm going to take off the banner. Okay, so I'm going to be showing a lot of these from the sideline angle and then from the end zone angle, highlighting or circling certain players, certain elements, certain aspects of what we're seeing on the screen here. Also, for reference, if we want some stats, the Bills' run defense in week 1, 29th in EPA per rush, 30th in yards before contact per rush, 32nd in yards after contact per rush, last in runs of 10 or more yards allowed, last, or 32nd in rush yards per play, 11th in stuff rate, which are runs of 0 or less, 31st in rush yards over expected. The Bills' identity as a defense, it showed in this game again, inside rush and penetration over being stout. They'll get pushed around or displaced or blown off the ball from time to time, but they also will create negative plays for an offense. This play we're going to go to here, this is the very first play of the game for the Baltimore Ravens offense. It is the first quarter, the 11-minute and 14-second mark. As I have noted up there, the Ravens are going to quick snap the Bills here. And so it's quick snap on 1st and 10. The Ravens get I think I typoed that, and I'm just going to do it because it's going to annoy the hell out of me. 6-yard gain. I know it's not a crazy difference, but that's going to annoy the hell out of me. I wanted to show the sideline angle to show some of the displacement that happens. I highlighted, I know Bosa's caught in there, but it's really Ed Oliver here and Daquan Jones here. As we get to the snap, watch the quick snap. Boom. See, again, Bills are just getting set. Ravens quick snap it. More significant than the Bishop Blitz one, but nonetheless, here's Daquan, here's Ed Oliver. These are two of the main guys I want to call out on this one. Just watch Daquan, unfortunately, get displaced. When I talk about displaced, I mean getting blown off the ball. Could happen side to side, horizontally, but a lot of times it's vertically. Just watch him get driven downfield. He's getting knocked off the ball. I hate showing it, but, so the ball's at, the 31-yard line? He gets knocked back to, the 34. So he gets knocked back 3 yards. His heels, at the 35. So almost 4 yards, gets driven off the ball. Just talking about displacement. Ed Oliver makes a really good play. Got them both highlighted there. Want to highlight Ed Oliver. Boom. Ed gets set. Here is Mr. Ed Oliver. Watch the play that he makes here. Zone run for the Ravens. He's in his gap. Watch him get his eyes in the backfield. Look at that. Looking around. Ed had a really good game against Baltimore, but you see Ed reading it. He's in his gap. He peeks. He sees that Henry puts his foot in the ground, gets north and south, slams on the brakes, spins out of the block, makes a tackle. Really nice play from Ed Oliver. Now, what I want to highlight too on this one, it's just a good one because of how the formation is. I want to talk about numbers in the box versus gaps. So if you notice here, numbers in the box for the Bills: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blockers for the Ravens: 1, 2, 3, 4. Center, which is 5, 6, 7. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers for 7 defenders. That is a neutral box. But from a defensive standpoint, if you are looking at this, you have a hat on a hat. You've got even numbers. You've got 7 defenders for 7 blockers. But there's one more gap than there are defenders. So you have a hat on a hat, but you're short a man for the gaps. And that means you need to cancel gaps or blockers. You need to steal gaps. You need to have someone or multiple someones win in the box or up front. Something has to happen to change the math. And when I talk about the gap piece, so again, 7 blockers, however many blockers you have, there's always one more gap than blockers you have. So again, for the Ravens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers. But that means there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gaps. So if there's 6 blockers, there's 7 gaps. If there's 7 blockers, there's 8 gaps. If there's 8 blockers, there's 9 gaps, so on and so forth. So in order to truly have a man for every gap, the Bills would need to have 8 defenders in the box. That's where, if you have 7 in the box, you might have a safety in the run fit. And this ties into your spacing, your front, your coverage structure. Obviously, if you're in a single high coverage and you've got a safety down in the box, that means they can readily be available for the run fit as opposed to fitting it from a 2 high structure. Depending on what type of nickel corner that you have, the Bills have a very good run playing nickel corner in Taron Johnson, but depending on what kind of nickel corner you have or what kind of formation the offense is in. Sometimes the nickel corner won't be in the run fit. Sometimes it's the boundary safety. Sometimes it is the nickel corner. That's what I talk about, like run fits really needing their own full episode because there's a huge science of it. But I wanted to use this play to set the basis for this episode. We're going to talk a lot about box counts, gaps, guys in gaps, so on and so forth. But the basics of it is, even if you have as many defenders as the offense has blockers, that's not necessarily a win from a math perspective. You're still short a gap. You could have 7 defenders for 7 blockers. That means you got a hat on a hat, but that means you have 7 defenders for 8 gaps. So you have to change the math somehow. And that's not even getting into angles, run concepts, all that kind of stuff, which is a whole nother conversation. But from this end zone angle, I'll run it one more time. Again, I wanted to use this play because it's pretty cut and dry from an example standpoint and from the run scheme. So watch, Daquan just gets driven down, but this is a good play by Ed. He's in his gap. Again, really good play from Ed Oliver in his gap, reads what's going on, spins out of it. And you can see Daquan just getting driven back there and displaced and unfortunately kind of essentially knocked off the ball. So again, good play from Ed Oliver. Also, if we notice too, just to set a little basis, you notice like Greg Rousseau and Terrell Bernard end up in the same gap. That's ideally not what you want. Cole Bishop spun down late, but he's essentially in the same gap as Joey Bosa. Then what you get when Henry cuts back here, essentially Milano has to make a choice based off of the fit here. So Henry puts his foot in the ground. Milano essentially has to try and be here or try and be here. He picks to our left. Henry sees that, makes him wrong just based off of the run fit. Other than the quick snap, there's nothing really wild here. This is just a basic offense, outside zone, creating displacement. And the Bills kind of get washed a little bit there. Let us go to play 2 here. So play 2, this is the very next play. First quarter, 10:53, 2nd and 4, gain of 1. This is a positive play for the Bills defense here. Again, I have this highlighted to show the nature of the Bills defense trying to get set, trying to get ready. The Ravens were coming out of the huddle at various tempos. They were snapping the ball at various tempos, doing a lot of things to kind of, Jedi mind trick or play games with the Bills defense, which I really loved from the Ravens perspective. So highlight, Bernard is getting Ed Oliver ready. You see Taylor Rapp communicating. You see Matt Milano communicating. Guys are kind of putting everything together right now on the fly. Ed just gets into his stance. Ball is snapped, but really good play from Ed Oliver. I'm just showing it here from the sideline angle, but I'm going to show it from the end zone because of how good of a job he does. Watch him just gum that up. Again, we talked about displacement on the previous play, right? We talked, Daquan Jones got driven back this way, but Ed was able to stay and come back inside. Watch the defensive line now and if there's movement. So the, line of scrimmage essentially right here. I can't draw straight lines. Don't yell at me. Look at how much displacement there is or isn't now. Daquan is able to torque a little bit. He gets smacked by the right guard, but is still able to kind of turn and gum things up. Ed is going nowhere. He gets lower, gums this whole thing up. Look where Bosa is. Look where Groot is. Groot does a good job reading the mesh point in the backfield, crashes down, makes the stop. But look at the difference in, again, when I talk about displacement, guys getting blown off the ball or not getting blown off the ball. This one also, too, notice we've got Ed Oliver eating this double team. Only a gain of 1 on this play. And also from a box perspective, as we let this play here a little bit, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we look at Benford here. We'll call him in the box. That's 7. Rapp is starting to drop out. But then notice on the snap, essentially the math, Ed and Groot changed the math a little bit, but the math also changes itself because the Ravens tight ends leave the box. Charlie Kolar goes out that way. Mark Andrews goes out that way. We've got the mesh action in the backfield. So now the math changes. We got Kolar leaving 88. We've got Andrews leaving. Groot does a good job reading it and crashes down. But I really, again, from this angle, I want to highlight Ed Oliver. Watch him against the double team. Stay low. He sees the double. He feels it. Watch him react and bang. Look at him drop the shoulder, drop the head. He's in his gap. He's playing with leverage. He's playing with strength. You can see one leg here, another one here. He's got a wide base. He is anchoring. And then look, he moves off of one man, shoulder and head inside the gap there. He's fighting through. He's gumming this up, not getting displaced. Good job. Holding strong. Again, you can defeat a double team by dropping the knee, reducing your surface area, splitting the double team, or you could just stay stout and not get moved and be able to anchor and make a good play in that regard. Next play here. First quarter, 8-minute and 55-second mark. We are on a 2nd and 5. And we get a gain of 2. Another good run defense for the Bills. This one really highlighted by Christian Benford on this play, but who I also have highlighted here. So we go through. Well, actually, I'm going to let this run now so you can see something else that I thought the Ravens did a good job of. A lot of just shifts and resets. You had some motion, but a lot of shifts and resets by the Ravens. Here's a good example here. You've got like a split back gun type of look. Lamar checks. Now we got, a heavy eye. Bang. This is probably Pat Ricard if he's healthy. This is probably Isaiah Likely if he's healthy. Both of those guys were not, which is crazy considering how good the Ravens moved the ball in this game, and they didn't have 2 of their important chess pieces. But I wanted to just highlight that little formational change. Now we get to right before the snap, and I've highlighted Christian Benford, who does a great job here on this run fit. So does Terrell Bernard, but I've also highlighted Javon Solomon, and I've also highlighted TJ Sanders here, who is in this right side B gap. I wanted to highlight them on this because Sanders and Solomon both do run stunts on the snap. Solomon's stunt takes the right tackle inside. TJ Sanders' stunt gums up the right guard and the center. And then we get Terrell Bernard fitting off the inside shoulder of the fullback. Christian Benford fits the alley off of that. Let's also count numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with Milano. Hard 7, 8-ish with Benford being in the box. And that's versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blockers for the Ravens. So again, what do we have? A hard 7 in the box, 8-ish with Christian Benford. But even if it's 8 on 8, that means there's 9 gaps. Somebody's got to do something. Somebody's got to win something somehow. And the math change that we get is TJ Sanders on the snap. So here's TJ Sanders right here. Watch him go this way and watch Javon Solomon go this way and watch what it does. Bang. So now what do we got? TJ Sanders is taking up 2 guys. We've changed the math. We now have 2 blockers on 1 Bills defender. We have changed the math for the defense. Solomon is slanting inside. Bernard is coming out this way to fit over here. We've got Milano taking the outside shoulder here against Mark Andrews. And then we've got Benford reading here and fitting accordingly. I can't talk about enough how good of a run fit this is for a corner. Benford's one of the better run defending corners in the league. He had a bit of a gaffe later in the game, which we're going to talk about in this one, but this is a really good play for Benford. So again, if we're just aggregating everything here, we've got 3 Bills defenders for 2 blockers. We have changed the math. Now, here comes this fullback. So now you've got to cover this gap here, but you've also got to cover the alley. But that's fine because, again, the Bills changed the math. Terrell Bernard is going to attack the inside shoulder here of 84. Bang. Meets him head on. So now Henry's got to go this way, right into the alley for Christian Benford. And here comes Christian Benford, who essentially tackles 84 and tackles Derrick Henry. Really good job from Benford. But again, showing that example, change the math, right? Sanders and Solomon stunt. That's a huge important piece. That stunt, again, if you've got smaller penetration-based defensive linemen, especially on the interior, and you've got guys that aren't going to anchor versus double teams, or they're not going to drop the knee and split the double team and work through or win just with size and power and size and strength and all that kind of stuff, you can do different things. You can still win with penetration. This is where you got to slant the front, get upfield quickly, just do a variety of things that can get you caught out at times, which I'm going to show an example of later. But this is an example of how you can win with having smaller penetration-based guys in your front. And, if it's a risk reward, sometimes you'll get caught out, but Sanders changes the math. Bang, bang. Here comes Benford, takes the inside shoulder. Here comes Bernard to take the inside shoulder, deters Henry, makes Henry pop this thing out. Benford's there. Bang. Well done. Well done, well done. Rally to the football. Make the tackle. Next play that we are going to get into here. Second quarter, 13-minute, 41-second mark. We're going to get a lead toss here. This is a 30-yard touchdown for the Ravens on 1st and 10. I'm going to show it from the sideline angle so you can get a sense, and then we're going to show it from the end zone angle. Again, what did we just get? Notice what we got. We got this bunch action over here, shotgun, and offset running back. Cool. What do the Ravens do? Shift on the snap. Now we have an I formation. What do we get? Going to get a shift from Mr. Zay Flowers. Lamar just signaled to him. He's going to move outside, get a little exit motion or reset out there. Now, actually, does he reset? No, he stays in motion. Yeah, so just straight up exit motion. I highlighted several players here. So Greg Rousseau, Matt Milano, and Terrell Bernard in the middle, and then Taylor Rapp here on this side. So Greg Rousseau down here on the edge, he is going to get blocked from Mark Andrews. If you notice, outside foot up for Mark Andrews, kind of a tell that there's going to be some kind of down block come in. Same thing for wide receivers. Usually if you're like a wide receiver line here and outside foot is up, it's likely they're going to come in here and try and crack or seal somebody. But Greg Rousseau down there on the edge, he's going to get tripped. Terrell Bernard gets ran through. Daquan Jones over here, maybe kind of sort of gets held, but also just at the end of the day doesn't get off his block. Or no, I'm sorry. Hold on. No, that's different. Forget what I just said. Groot is just going to get pinned by the tight end. Bernard's going to get sealed. Milano's going to flow over the top. He's going to get nudged slightly, and he gets run by. So he and Rapp are essentially in the same gap. And then this is the play where Cole Bishop gets dribbled. Sorry. See what happens? I just read from my notes. Confused plays. Sound like a clown. Let's just watch the play. All right. So boom. Here's Rousseau. Here comes the block from Mark Andrews. Bang. Sealed. Pinned inside. So again, talked about Groot. Now let's watch Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams is going to meet the outside shoulder of the fullback to force the run back inside. But keep an eye on Terrell Bernard right here as he and Dorian both move. So there goes Dorian. Bernard gets sealed. He's done. So Milano, again, we're going to look at this from the end zone angle. Milano's coming over here, but he gets hit just enough by Falele to kind of push him, kind of run by this play. So he ends up in the same gap with Taylor Rapp, which is not great. And then Henry goes through. See, then we're talking about Daquan Jones. Here's Daquan. I'll back it up quickly. Daquan coming through. Close, but just doesn't get off the block in time. Matt Milano and Taylor Rapp, both in the same gap. Here comes Cole Bishop, who, again, unfortunately, gets stiff-armed and gets dribbled by Derrick Henry. And we have a touchdown and a house call. Again, I'll play it in real time from the sideline angle so you can see. Also, if you notice or you care, watch Terrell Bernard on the snap. He's looking to like call. He looks back here, but Cole Bishop is up here disguising, and then he drops on the snap. So maybe somebody was in the wrong here at some point. But Bernard is trying to communicate at the end of the day, still on the snap, and the Ravens are snapping. Again, another example of them kind of just catching Buffalo at times. Everybody gets sealed. See that little tiny push on Milano? Whoop. Pause it. Here's Milano. Watch that little tiny push. Just enough to kind of get him going that way. And now we got two guys in the gap. I'm just going to run it real time from this angle, and then we're going to go to the end zone. Bang, bang, bang. Bills on the ground. House call for Mr. Derrick Henry. Scary guy when he gets on the move. So again, this angle just highlighting the run fits. Milano, Bernard, Groot, Taylor Rapp. Let's go from this angle. There goes the exit motion for... and now if you're asking here, like, why is Cole Bishop dropping? Like, what's happening? That's the coverage. Like, he is dropping on the snap. They're trying to show one thing. Again, they're trying to disguise. He is holding right until the snap. He's trying to make them think like, oh, I'm coming. I'm going to do something. Psych, I'm dropping on the snap. But at the end of the day, so it starts here. Mr. Greg Rousseau gets sealed inside. Again, this is just a lead toss, so you get a little crack there on the outside, and then you get the lead from the fullback. The center and the right tackle are getting out in space. Dorian meets the outside shoulder. He's acting as a force player to try and spin this thing or force this play back inside, which he does. This is where we get into the problem here. So here's Terrell Bernard getting sealed inside. Go back a little bit more so you can see there's Bernard. He just gets caught and sealed inside. This is Matt Milano right here. He's going to get pushed and gets that run by a little bit. So bang, you see that little burst from him. I know it still counts as kind of like overflowing or over pursuing for some, but you see that little burst. So now all of a sudden you've got him in the alley, but Taylor Rapp is also here in the alley, which means there is no one here because you have Bernard being sealed. Daquan isn't coming off the block enough. So because you've got both of these defenders in this gap, your only hope is for Cole Bishop to fill from the backside. That's not a good arrow there. Fill from the backside against Derrick Henry, which he does. But he just gets dribbled. Not a great look for Bishop. Great run from Henry, though. Yeah, and if we notice again, let's count numbers in the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, why did that move? Bosa is 1. Milano is 2. Ed is 3. Daquan is 4. Bernard is 5. Dorian is 6. Groot is 7. You've got 7 defenders in the box for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers, 5 offensive linemen, plus the tight end, plus the fullback, 7 on 7, even from a numbers perspective, down from a gap perspective. Again, let's watch there. That's kind of it. Just get caught. House call. Dribbled. Rough. Next play. Actually, let me pause for a sec. I want to go to chat. Anything. Bills fan 7883 says, Babbage said Bernard wasn't playing freely and was thinking too much, just needs to trust the call and go make the plays that are there. Paraphrasing. Yeah, he had kind of a rough game, which was unfortunate. Yeah, he did. Yeah, I see a couple comments there about Bernard. Yeah, he had a bit of a rough game. He got cracked a bunch. Not literal crack. I just mean like smacked. And some guys going through him from time to time. Let us go to this next play here. Second quarter, 11-minute, 23-second mark. We're going to get a mid-zone run here. This is a 49-yard gain on 2nd and 5. 6 eventually on the line for the Bills, and they run blitz. You're going to get 7 blockers versus 7 in the box. Again, even from a hat-on-hat perspective, down from a gap perspective. Greg Rousseau, who I have highlighted, he's going to get tripped. This is what play I was talking about earlier when I confused my notes. Terrell Bernard, he right here is going to get ran through. Daquan doesn't quite get off his block, maybe gets held a little bit. Cole Bishop jumps outside. Too much out here. I'm going to show you. Bishop comes more out here, which helps with the wide receiver who's trying to push crack on him. Benford, Milano, and Bishop essentially all get walled off together. Rapp triggers as part of the fit from the backside, but misses the tackle. And then we're going to highlight Dorian Strong. Okay, ready, break. Let's watch it. Real time. Feel free to keep your eyes on whoever you want. I'm going to end up rewinding anyway. Leash. Oof. Great play from Dorian Strong. This angle is nice. The end zone angle is even better. Okay, again, let's watch. Okay, as I talked about. So we have the little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the line. Taron Johnson is blitzing, but because this run is a zone run to the right, we got mid zone to the right. Taron Johnson essentially doesn't even matter. He gets unblocked because he's the backside end man on the line of scrimmage for that zone run. So they're leaving him unblocked. He even gets held a little bit. You can see, not literally held, but you watch Taron come off the edge. He chops his feet a little bit because he's honoring any potential boot action from Lamar. Here comes Groot. Starts out good, but he end zone angle will show you he gets tripped. Goes down. Here's Terrell Bernard. Watch Terrell Bernard. Voorhees climbs, smacks him right in the face, kind of literally and figuratively. And then watch from the end here. Bishop, Benford, Milano, all essentially get walled off by kind of one, but more like these two blockers right here. Milano tries to squeeze through a little bit, but just can't get the angle. We'll watch in slow motion. See, all three of these guys are walled off, and there's nobody here. There goes Derrick Henry. Good run for Derrick Henry. Now, let's go to the end zone angle. Easier to see. Here's Rousseau. I've got Milano circled, Bishop circled, Bernard circled, Taylor Rapp circled. Let's watch here. This is a good angle. You can see Rousseau. Watch his feet here. It's just unfortunate. Uses both hands. He's trying to occupy guys, using that length. Gets stepped on right there. As he's getting pushed, he goes down. Problem one. Daquan Jones right here. Doesn't get off the block. That's why I said maybe gets held a little bit. Hands are inside the frame of the pads. They're inside the chest, but you can see Daquan's trying to come free, but he can't. So Daquan's got nothing there. We'll go back a little bit more. Let's watch Terrell Bernard circled there. Here comes Andrew Voorhees. Bang. Bernard gets planted into the ground. Let's back up one more time. Let's watch Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop coming down. My thought here, he should be here. Again, the numbers are changing because of what happens to Bernard and Groot, and now you're kind of getting into a spot where you're in trouble. But Rosengarten is looking back. He's got no one, so he gets his head around to the front side. You know you've got Benford here. Bishop's got to stay more here. You got to cause more problems with your fit there. He kind of jumps himself outside, but also gets pushed outside a little bit. And then this is obviously the end zone angle of this. You have three defenders who are walled off. And then Bernard got smacked and is getting up, and Rapp is coming through here. But this is what did I just do? There we go. But this is a big size alley for Derrick Henry. And here comes Rapp. Right, y'all. Goes to make the tackle. Bounces off. I mean, Henry also, this is just being awesome for Derrick Henry. Like, watch him just lower that shoulder, absorb the contact, and just keep going. Watch Dorian Strong. This is awesome. Strong chases him down. I'm going to slow-mo it as he gets closer. Henry goes for the stiff arm, and watch Strong chop the arm down, get lower than Henry, play through him, and bring him down. That's a really good play from Dorian Strong. I'm going to play it in real time. Bang. That's a nice play from Dorian Strong. I don't think he had as amazing of a game as some people are kind of making it out to be, but that's an awesome play from Dorian Strong. Again, you can just see, right? Like, you can just see how this play is developing. Even if you don't know anything about the science of run fits, even if you don't know anything about how good someone schematically is or isn't, or what things are supposed to be, just watch right here. Like, you can tell just by the naked eye, we probably don't want three guys here and nobody here. Not to boil it down or make it overly simple. But yeah, so Rapp ends up being the one to have the chance. Just bounces off Henry because Henry is a freight train once he gets moving. That's how you can see what you get there. And then again, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, essentially in the box versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you are a gap short if you are the Bills defense. But then also, again, the math changes on the snap because one of your 7, Taron Johnson, essentially gets erased and doesn't matter at all. So now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defenders in the box for the Bills. So the math has changed positively for the Ravens. Football, at the end of the day, in a nerdy way, comes down to essentially math. What is addition and subtraction? Arithmetic. So it comes down to arithmetic, geometry, which is like space and angles. That's all it comes down to. Football is numbers, angles, and space. And then we change the math a little bit more. Why? Because here comes Rashad Bateman to crack on this man in the box. So he's still got to play here. He's still got to play forward, Mr. Cole Bishop. You've got to play forward, stay there. You've got to come here, stick this, force Henry to come into Benford, who is the unblocked man. And if Henry has to come this way, Benford triggers this way. I know Rosengarten is there and is looking to pick up Benford, which he does, but you've got the opportunity to kind of fit in here. And even if Bishop is just here, you get another body to try and muddy this thing and not just leave a runway for Derrick Henry. Really good play from Dorian Strong. All right, play 6. Nothing too crazy on this one. Second quarter, 9:52 mark. Lamar keeps this ball, 10-yard touchdown on 2nd and 5. What I really just want to show is how the jet sweep action from Zay Flowers in the slot, plus the fake give, holds the defenders, creates some muddiness in the reads for the guys, and then you get a touchdown here for the Ravens. So watch this. Here we go. Watch the second level. Watch essentially Taron to Bernard to Milano and Rapp. Watch what happens to him here. See, Taron's telling him, you go. There goes Rapp. Bernard and Milano both step down. Taron steps down. Now you've created better angles for yourself if you're the Ravens, and you've also created numbers. Now you've got 2 blockers for 2 defenders. So you have a hat on a hat, which is advantage Ravens. Plus you have Lamar in space, which is a huge problem. And you have a touchdown. Go for the end zone angle here. See the jet sweep influence plus the Lamar fake and keeper. We're going to start here with Matt Milano. Actually, no. We'll start with Bernard and Rapp. Watch Bernard 8, Rapp 9. Watch the movement. So they initially move. And just that little movement from Bernard. Same thing from Taron Johnson. Both these guys stepping in here just a little bit. Helps create angles for Ronnie Stanley and for Mark Andrews to kind of make those blocks. Bernard sees it and is out the gate. Lamar reads it, cuts back, boom. Let's go back again. Let's watch Mr. Matt Milano, number 58. Watch Milano just get muddied up by this thing. He's trying to figure out where this ball is. He sees Zay Flowers go, sees that Zay doesn't have the ball, but he gets his eye to Justice Hill. Does Justice Hill have the ball? Let me engage. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. He's still trying to figure out what's happening. Lamar's kind of already about to be out the gate. Milano is still fighting through, sees it, but, being even a half second late, let alone almost a full second late, is a death sentence against Lamar. And that's what you get. And then also we get Joey Bosa crashing down here on the edge. There goes Bosa. He goes flying down, honoring the run. Lamar keeps. Bang. 2-on-2 on the outside. Numbers, angles, space. Walk-in touchdown for Lamar. Awesome player. Next play that we are going to go to here. One of my favorite plays. I talk about this on social all the time. This play is called Crunch. Sorry, I just saw the comment quick. Nathan says, math, damn you. And he says, trigonometry is a lost art, especially from linebackers and safeties. Oh, I love that. Real quick comment here from Bills fan 7883 says, 2 things really concern me from this game. Bernard is too small and can easily be completely taken out of a game. Groot just can't tackle for whatever reason. He's good in position to miss the tackle. I think some of it for Groot, because he is so big and long, like he doesn't have great change of direction, so he can kind of get caught bumbling a little bit at times. I don't think he can't tackle, but there is some awkwardness to him at times. Bernard, I wanted to pull this up because this kind of just relates to what I overall think when it comes to Bernard, and part of why I wanted more of a space eater at defensive tackle. You've got a small second level. Bernard is small. Even Milano is small for a linebacker. Taron Johnson is small. Having dudes climb to the second level and get hands on them and body them is a problem. And this game, the Ravens offensive line, for as much maligned as they were at times and kind of not executing well, they would get to the second level on Bernard and mash him. And you don't want him having to do that all the time. It's enough that he already has to, juke guys and trigger. But yeah, with his size and play style, if you let dudes get to the second level, it can be a problem. And I think that was definitely reflected, unfortunately, in this game. This play here, second quarter, 2-minute 42-second mark, 1st and 10, 17-yard gain. This play is crunch. I love this play. Essentially, all crunch is, I've got several players highlighted from a Bills perspective, but also from a Ravens perspective. Crunch essentially is trap plus wham. So the trap is this one tack or the shade here. It's going to get trapped by the guard. The wham block is the same thing. It's just a trap, but from like a tight end or an H-back on the 3 tech out here. We're going to start with Mr. TJ Sanders. This is what I talked about earlier, right? If you are a penetration-based defense, you get upfield, teams know that. They can use that against you. For those, kind of playing at home, this was the play the Ravens ran on the very first play of the game last year in Baltimore. That was that, 72 or 73-yard touchdown to Derrick Henry. Charlie Kolar here was Pat Ricard. They ran crunch. Rasul Douglas was the unblocked defender over here. Henry just went around and went like that. But let's watch. We'll start with TJ Sanders here. Watch TJ Sanders, how fast he gets upfield. He essentially takes himself out of the play. Done. Kolar is trying to pick him up. He wants to seal him, meet him here. Derrick Henry's going to cut right off his butt. That's where you want to go. Sanders flies upfield so fast. Kolar doesn't even really get hands on him. He gets literally a paw on his shoulder. That's it. But Sanders flew upfield so fast, he's done. So Henry's already by him. Deion Walker actually does a pretty good job here. You're trying to use this pull here as an influence block to try and hold this guy a little bit or make him stall, get his eyes there so you can really get that trap on him. Walker doesn't even register with it, but watch Walker just see quick swim inside, defeats his man. Doesn't end up really mattering, but nice move from him. Other aspect of this run play, Ronnie Stanley, this is a hard block for him. He's trying to get to Bernard. Usually, depending on the front, this backside backer is more over this way. This is a hard block for Ronnie Stanley. He gets to Bernard. This is the one kind of qualm a little bit I have with this. Watch Stanley on Bernard. I think it might be a hold, but it looks like he's just leaning on him more than he's pulling on him. It doesn't look great. I'm going to keep running in slow-mo because my finger's already on the cursor. Bernard is here. Let's watch Bernard get up. Bernard kind of gets up and looks like he wants a flag or expects a flag, but he doesn't make too much of a fuss about it. So, meh. But 17-yard gain on 1st and 10. TJ Sanders takes the bait, gets caught flying upfield by the wham block. Deion Walker does actually a decent job, setting and beating the trap. We're going to watch Tyler Linderbaum here at center. Watch him go to Mr. Matt Milano. That's why I have Milano highlighted here. Linderbaum gets great movement to get to Milano. Let's highlight that. There goes Linderbaum right off the gate. Really great movement center. Just jumps, gets in front. Sorry, I'm timing that wrong. There we go. There's Linderbaum. Just jumps, sets, get in front. Hands, base block. Here's our hole. Not huge, but enough. Good tackle from Taylor Rapp in depth, or from depth. Boom. Shoulder. A little bit of an alligator turn there, or roll there. Boom. Good tackle from Taylor Rapp. Shout out to him on this play. Had a bit of a rough night in some other aspects, which we're going to talk about. Again, we're talking about numbers. I'm going to get rid of the circles. Let's talk about numbers in the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7 in the box. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers. So we have 7 versus 6. We have got enough numbers for every gap. Hooray. That is a success from the Bills' standpoint. But the unblocked defender essentially is Taron Johnson on this backside and doesn't really affect the play. So it still essentially plays out like 6-on-6 and a hat on a hat for Baltimore. And they get a hat on a hat. Bang, bang. Nice game. Math, over and over. Positive play here for the Bills. Third quarter, 15-minute mark. This is just some good gapping out play here from the defense. There goes Benford in motion. I want everybody to pay attention to Christian Benford. This is going to be very relatable to the Derrick Henry house call later in the fourth quarter. Not the exact same thing, but I want everyone to focus on Benford here and just remember a little bit of how good of a run defender he is when times come later. But you just look at what the Bills got here from a numbers perspective. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, essentially 8 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8 on 8, but again, there's 8 blockers. That means there's 9 potential gaps. So you got to have somebody do something. Something's got to happen here. Bills just win on that side. Greg Rousseau does a really good job at the point of attack here. Absorbs Henry. Wrap comes from the backside. Finishes. Let's watch here. Bernard highlighted. Just run fits. Numbers front side. Highlight everybody here because everybody here who highlighted, played a role in this. Also, keep an eye on, talking about stunts, right? Watch Ed Oliver. He jumps from B gap, what looks like B gap pre-snap, into the A gap. Boom, there's that. Let's also watch Greg Rousseau. You can't see him because Milano's got him completely covered, but Greg Rousseau is right here, right in front of Matt Milano. You can see Rousseau's movement on the snap like he is going to stem inside, but then he reads what's going on here, so he doesn't completely, doesn't completely, slow plays it, and watch him get both those arms to impact both blockers, eats this thing up. Here's Milano. Bernard is coming for support. Watch what you've got here. This is also nice too. Pay attention to this for later. So Milano is going outside. So Benford sees that. Christian Benford, number 47, sees that and feels it. Watch Benford just plant his feet, get in the hole, takes on the fullback, right? Because that's who is coming for Christian Benford. This is the fullback. Watch this play here. Benford feels it, fits, bang. Henry doesn't see the space, so he's like, let me cut back inside. Groot beats his man. Benford's gumming this thing up. Rousseau is gumming this thing up and brings down Derrick Henry. So again, if we're talking about math, we're talking about changing numbers, all of that kind of stuff. What you've got front side here, 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers for 1, 2, 3 Bills defenders, but those defenders make it work. Again, you got to find some way to change the math, or somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to do something. You got to steal gaps, cancel blockers, whatever verbiage you want to use, or just flat out say somebody's got to win. Bernard's pursuit also changes this because it makes this man here come off to go to Bernard, which means this double against Groot now becomes a single, which helps Groot come off and be able to make a play. So change that math a little bit. Change it from 4-on-3 to essentially 4-on-4. Somebody comes off their block, makes a play, and we get a stop. Play it one more time in real time. We're highlighting Bernard here. Again, it gets a little messy and muddy as they start moving, but you've got this slant here from Ed Oliver, right? So that means somebody needs to be in this gap, somebody needs to be in this gap, somebody needs to be over here. And as we go forward, Rapp is pursuing this thing from the back, because if you're playing it again still from a gap perspective, Groot, head here, Bernard is trying to play here, Benford is taking on this man here. Again, we've essentially got, 4-on-4 out here. 1, 2, Whoops. 3, 4 Ravens versus 1, 2, 3, 4 Bills. So there's going to be more gaps than we can account for with bodies. But Henry tries to put his foot in the ground. Groot comes off his block. Boom. Let's go to play 9 here. Okay. Play 9. This essentially is just at Oliver. Third quarter, 7-minute, 4-second mark, 2nd and 5 ends up becoming a 5-yard loss. I just wanted to play this because this just looks awesome from Ed Oliver. I'm going to show it from the end zone angle because it shows the displacement and how much he drives his man backwards. Let's just watch. Not going to spend too much time on it. This play is just awesome from Ed Oliver. Watch it again. He's circled. Blow that thing up. Rides Rosengarten right into the backfield, right into Derrick Henry. Awesome play. Watch him shoot on the snap. Good get off, but watch this moment right here. Watch this shoulder dip. Watch that right shoulder from our vantage point. Watch it dip to reduce that surface area, puts his head down. Look at the pad level. And again, this also takes like core strength and power, because if you have a big dude essentially like climbing onto your back, like he can kind of drive you into the ground or just wash you through. Ed doesn't let that happen here. Powers through. This is core strength. This is leg strength. This is body control. Look how he gets under him. Again, the jet sweep action actually kind of muddies things. Flowers and Rosengarten almost hit each other. You see Flowers and Rosengarten trying to avoid each other because Ed drives him so far back. Henry doesn't even get the chance to do anything, and Ed is right there. That's just an awesome play from Ed Oliver. There's nothing really overly schematic, especially for the sake of time, that I want to go over right now. I just want to show Ed Oliver. This is awesome. That's awesome. That's a crazy good play. Okay. Play 10. Third quarter. Minute 58. 3-yard gain. Good defense. Things work out. Really good play from Dorian Williams. I'm going to show it from the sideline angle first. Watch Dorian so you can get appreciation for how he shoots here and makes this play. Bang. Good play. Good play from Dorian. Watch 42. There he goes. Good play. Watch from the end zone angle here. I'm going to show our run fits. I've got Milano highlighted. I've got Bernard and Deion Walker highlighted with the big circle there. And then Mr. Dorian Williams. We'll start with Dorian. Watch 42. Voorhees is trying to get to him off of this double team. So they're trying to work that. He's trying to help him a little bit, give him kind of that feed block and then work his way to Dorian. And Dorian just shoots through, absorbs the contact, plays through it, doesn't even alter him too much, is able to bring down Henry. Deion Walker, let's highlight, him right here. Mr. 96, hard to miss him. He is huge. Lined up in essentially a 2, maybe slightly a 2 wide, but essentially a 2 right over the right guard. Right guard tries to feed him a little bit so the center can overtake him, and then he can come over here to Bernard. Walker muddies this thing a bit. Watch him torque. I rewound this a bunch to see, does Linderbaum fall right here, or is it just Walker torquing him? I think it's just Walker torquing him. Just puts him into the ground. Bang. Let's also watch some fits. So here goes. You're kind of taking a look at everyone here. So here's Solomon. Milano is here. Bernard is trying to go here. Walker's trying to go here. Dorian Williams is trying to go there. So guys are working to their gaps. Bernard takes on Daniel Falele, who is also a mountain of a man. You see how he plays it through that outside shoulder. Also, remember, so we just highlighted, okay, everybody here. Okay, you're thinking gap, 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 right? Sounds fun. But there also is that fullback in the backfield, so the math is going to change again. You still have this extra blocker, so you're still tough. You need somebody to do something, and that somebody in this aspect is Dorian Williams, shooting, beating the left guard, being able to slice and make this play. Bernard tries to play it safe, but again, kind of just muddies this a little bit. At the end of the day, too, it doesn't have to be the cleanest thing. You don't have to beat your guy. You don't have to completely own somebody, chuck them, shed them, blow them up. Sometimes it's just make life hard, gum up the works, make it muddy, muck it up, do some kind of something there. And Bernard here does enough to kind of jump in this way to make Henry think, you know what? Or also, let's watch his eyes. He's thinking, you know what? I think I can get here. And that's understandable, right? Bernard has gone out this way. Linderbaum, you know, if you're looking at it from Henry's vantage point, Linderbaum's butt is right here. So you're thinking, okay, you know, maybe I can put my shoulder down, get some yards on this play in this aspect, some kind of something. But Linderbaum starts getting torqued to the ground, and before Henry can even get there, Dorian Williams makes a play. And then Walker pushes Linderbaum into Henry, and it all gets mucked up. Hope I'm not going too fast with any of these. In the essence of time, again, we could, if we really went crazy here, we would be here for forever, which might be a bonus to some, or some might hate it. This play, fourth quarter, 11 minutes. Oh, I got to stop because we got a super chat. Thank you very much. Pick's message. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the super chat. Comment here is pro__. And thanks for the equal amount of blueberries you always so meticulously add to all my muffins and this quality content. That's super funny. Thank you so much for that. That's awesome. I appreciate I appreciate the Twitter handle reference, the casino reference, and my intro reference. And the kind words about the content. And thank you for being here. That's awesome. I appreciate you. So let's go to this one. Fourth quarter, 11 minutes, 48 seconds, 1st and 10. This is the 46-yard touchdown to Derrick Henry. This is the one I talked about earlier on why I wanted to highlight Christian Benford for doing something good earlier. Benford looks to have screwed up on this one. We're going to go through it, but let's just watch it from the sideline angle. Again, I have these defenders highlighted: Benford, Bernard, Taylor Rapp. Rapp because he drops on the snap and ends up getting burned really badly. Also watch both safeties. Again, this is where we talk about coverage. Each safety widens. So if you're looking from like a coverage responsibility standpoint, they're going to a middle field open, split field, too high coverage. Okay. Let's watch just from the sideline angle. Okay, look at these three. Look at Christian Benford. Again, we just showed a play a couple plays ago where Benford stuck his nose in. Again, ballparking it from the play, but stuck his nose in right here. Bernard came here. Groot came off his block and stuck Henry right here, right? We showed all that. Watch Benford on this one. For whatever reason, and the end zone angle is worse, Benford just keeps going outside. So now we've got 4 defenders all right here, which is no bueno. And let's watch Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard tries to shoot this thing and make the play. Linderbaum peels off, gets him. Huge alley for Henry. Rapp isn't fast enough. And it's a house call. The end zone angle is worked. So again, let's watch everything here on the front side aspect of everything. If we are watching from a pre-snap alignment standpoint, right here, just based off of the movement. So Bernard, there's too many guys with similar names here. I got Dorian Williams and Dorian Strong. One is 42 and one is 43. I got Benford, Bernard. Bernard's number change is still throwing me off, and sometimes it looks like a 9. But anyway, watching this fit, okay? Dorian's here. Groot is here. Daquan is here. Benford's got to come back. Again, I don't know if maybe somebody else screwed up. Benford is supposed to be the outside man. He's supposed to be contained or the forced player, whatever. But just off of like seeing this, especially knowing for a, one gap penetrating defense like the Bills are, you are going to have times where, you have to do something to kind of, again, cancel gaps, cancel blockers. There's a lot of movement happening, right? Sometimes it's a forced exchange, where we're going to stunt this guy. This guy, the defensive tackle, is going to jump from the B to the A. So the linebacker who was initially aligned in the A is going to cover the B gap instead, scrape exchanges and things like that. Or it happens on the fly. You see what's happening in front of you and you operate accordingly. Benford just drifts too far outside. Bernard gets sealed by Linderbaum, like I said, and this is just bad regardless, but especially against Derrick Henry. And then Rapp has the unfortunate task of trying to come up and stop Henry, but Henry's already got a full head of steam. Yeah, not great. But, and also, whoever threw this at Henry, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing? Almost hit him, too. What are we doing? Again, Benford just, even if we are playing from a numbers perspective, right? Let's watch Linderbaum. Here's the center. He's moving. He's looking to try and push Daquan out there. Again, we've got a mid-zone lead type of play here, a zone lead. Linderbaum's looking to work, but Daquan is already kind of taking himself out of here. So Linderbaum's like, okay, cool. Let me peel off and seal this guy, which he does. Bang. I still don't know at this point. Benford's kind of pot committed, but he's still moving in this direction. I don't know why. I don't know if he loses Henry, doesn't see it, if he thinks the same thing is going to happen as the play before where we called him out, where Henry's just going to kind of barrel into this mess over here. But you see the bodies, you got to read this, kind of come back in here. But not, again, I don't even know. Once he's pot committed and Henry's got a head of steam, that's going to be tough for anybody. But yeah, Benford just gets a little too much outside. And this is something essentially everyone is just walled off here. There's nobody coming free. This is just a mess of bodies. Nobody's getting off their blocks. Everybody's just kind of caught within one another. So that's just a win for the offense. It's all gummed up. Even if it is essentially 4-on-3, but it's 4-on-4 because of the numbers in there. The fullback's hat is right there. He just barrels in and kind of pushes the pile because Benford essentially takes himself out of the play. Yeah. Also, talking about, a traditional 4 down front, which the Bills are. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have that natural, here's an A gap, here's the B gap. There's that B gap bubble that is naturally present. When you've got that 4 down, a 4-3 over front that the Bills run a ton. So how are you trying to answer that? Again, Groot's here. Daquan's here. Dorian's there. Benford just drifts too much. Gets caught. That's not even taking, again, into account the fullback who changes the math and numbers as well. Bernard gets caught. Boom. And then Rapp, again. Rapp is dropping on the snap. I don't want anybody to see this and be like, I don't know why he didn't just immediately see this action and come here. He's a coverage player, first and foremost, based on the fit on this one. So he's coverage first. So he has to honor his coverage responsibility, just like Cole Bishop is honoring his coverage responsibility. So that's why Rapp initially drops. But then he reads run, sees that this thing is handed off, and that's why he puts his foot into the ground. And we'll let it play, and we get a house call. Yeah. Also, tip your cap, too. Derrick Henry is crazy good. The Ravens are crazy good. This is nice, too. Great timing, again, by Linderbaum to see this and be like, oh, okay, 92 is taking himself out of the play. I don't even have to feed too much or kind of give an extra nudge to feel that and know this thing is gone, and then get your eyes back to the mic, right? And be like, oh, okay, boom. Because Bernard is trying to undercut that thing, and Linderbaum sees it, feels it, peels off, bang. Kudos to them. Guys working on the backside. Kolar's working on the backside. Falele's working on the backside. You got touchdown Ravens, unfortunately, for the Bills. This one here. Pretty simple. Good one for the Bills. Fourth quarter, 8 minutes, 37 seconds. Second down and 7. This is a 6-yard loss for the Ravens. Matt Milano, who I have highlighted, he shoots, blows up this run. I'm not going to get into too much of like the math and the change, but this is just a good win, an example of, a guy making a play or guys making a play and being able to change the nature of a play. Watch Milano just time this thing, shoot, boom. Henry's like, uh-oh. Again, good play from Milano. Just shoot that thing. Quick trigger. Ball up the fullback. Maybe this looks different if that fullback is Pat Ricard. I've also highlighted A.J. Epinesa and Daquan Jones from the end zone angle, along with Mr. Matt Milano. So watch Milano shoot the B gap. Dips through. Bang. Meets the fullback. Epinesa, using his length, playing that outside to make sure Henry can't go here. That's part of the reason why Henry sees this here and is like, okay. He also kind of, I think, sees this developing and is like, oh, maybe I want to cut that back and hit there. But Milano really nullifies a whole bunch of it, blows up his man. Then Henry's like, uh-oh, that's not there. Let me go this way. Uh-oh. Here's A.J. Epinesa. That's not available either. Okay, let me go this way. Oh, Daquan has now come free. All starts because of Milano blowing that thing up. Daquan and A.J. make a nice play. I'll run it real time from the end zone angle. Daquan is nice little chuck there. Chuck 72. Voorhees to the ground. Voorhees trips a little bit maybe. It's a mess on the offensive line. You're always kind of hitting feet and stumbling over each other. That's a great shoot from Milano. Again, sometimes just cause havoc. It's like playing a video game and just, or like the first Triple X movie with Vin Diesel where he's got the rocket launcher and they're like, oh, you ever play video games? He's like, yeah, and like just blow stuff up. Last play. This is the forced fumble. It's just an awesome play from Ed Oliver, and I just wanted to show it because it's awesome. Watch Ed Oliver. This is Ed right here. Shoots. I'm going to show it from the end zone angle too. Shoots. Gets stiff-armed. Keeps battling. Gets his hand on the ball and just rips that thing out. That's not accidental. That's purposeful. He's got a hand on it. That ball gets ripped out. Shoot. Again, Bills are selling out for the run. Look at all the bodies in the box. Run first action. Dorian's dropping and Bishop's dropping, but everyone else is essentially pot committed. You've essentially got 9 men committed to the run here. You're playing like a blitz coverage type of deal, and you're just selling out. Also, another example, this is a good job here from Benford, even though it doesn't actually end up mattering. Like, watch Benford here. Comes up. Gets outside. Like, let me be a force player. Make sure this thing doesn't get outside of me. Make sure I'm good here. End zone angle. There's Ed Oliver highlighted. We're going to go in slow-mo just so you can appreciate that. Again, similar to what we talked about earlier, the angle here of what we got. The Ravens are running power, which means you are going to get the fullback kicking out the end man on the line of scrimmage, and then you're going to get the guard pulling and kind of wrapping through the hole. Don't mind my lines. They're not great. So you're trying to get, this down block here with Ed inside this gap, and he just beats Rosengarten to the spot and Linderbaum to the spot. Squeezes through because he is a little smart. Look at the pad level. Like Linderbaum's here, Rosengarten's here, trying to lean. Look where Ed is. Good pad level, good leverage, good strength. Powers his way through, no pun intended. Again, you're trying to kick out on the end man on the line of scrimmage, trying to get the guard to lead this play through, and it just doesn't matter because Ed is there to cut it off. Eats a stiff arm right in the face. Doesn't matter. Keeps battling. Rips the ball out. Crazy good play. Again, I don't want to get anything too scientific or schematic with that one. That's just an awesome play from Ed Oliver. He had a bunch of really good plays in this game. Oof. Again, another example, right? Sometimes it's just somebody makes a play. Somebody shoots a gap. Sometimes it's a linebacker blitzing like we showed on the play before. Sometimes it's an interior defensive lineman shooting their gap and making a play. Sometimes it's an edge defender. Sometimes you're changing the math and it's a safety blitz, right? So it could be somebody just winning their one-on-one. It could be somebody, get off and getting to a spot before the blocker can get to a spot. It could be that you have the numbers from a gap perspective and you're gapped out. A lot of different ways you can win. Yeah, good times. I'm going to stop the share. That'd be a good idea. Oh, that's because we're not on that. Falling apart. Overall, one, I hope you folks enjoyed that film breakdown. Overall, because this is something I've talked about a ton throughout this offseason. If you folks watch this show, if you watch the film room, if you follow me on social, I have talked about being worried about the run defense all year. I talked about last year, their best friend when it came to the run game was either game script. And when I say game script, I mean, you get a turnover early or you force a field goal, maybe force a punt, even though the Bills didn't force a lot of them last year. I think they were like 31st in punts forced per drive, but somehow get some kind of stop or you don't allow a touchdown. And then you pair that with the offense for the Bills scoring touchdowns, and you get out to a 14-0 lead, 17-3, 21-3, 21-0, something like that. And the opponent has to be like, oh, we don't really have the time to run the ball. We got to pass. So that's the game script, kind of getting the opponent away from the run game. That was the Bills' best way to defend the run, is game script forcing opponents out of the run. If games were close, teams were able to run the ball successfully against the Bills. And if teams were able to keep running the ball because the game was close, the way the Bills would defend the run was gapping out. So you'd walk a safety down. You would want to have numbers. So again, if there were 7 blockers, the Bills wanted 8 defenders in the box. If there were 6 blockers, they wanted 7, so on and so forth, right? So it was either game script or having to win with numbers. You didn't get enough guys winning individually. You weren't getting enough slants, stunts, something to kind of gum up the works and change the math. And you also weren't getting guys just beating their blocks, guys shooting, somebody beating an offensive, blocker to a spot, somebody going through their man or beating their man. You weren't getting enough of any of that kind of stuff, right? And with my thought this year was it was going to be a lot of the same because they leaned into more inside rush and penetration. Now, I think the inside rush and penetration guys this year are better than the guys last year. I think Sanders, Walker, and Ogunjobi, when he comes back, are better than Carter and Johnson, but it still speaks to you're not stout. It's not guys that are going to anchor. It is guys that are smaller and can potentially get blown off the ball. And this is a really good comment from Pete. Pete says, the theme for me was far too much horizontal movement on too many zone runs. They need to just play fundamentally sound and hold gaps sometimes. Can't shed and penetrate every play or bust. I think that's very well said. Part of the reason, too, in this film breakdown, again, like the 13 plays I showed, we could analyze every single player and all the rules of the run fits for all 13 of those plays and probably be here for like 2 hours to really break it down. But to your point, yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that. It's just too much movement. That's when I always talk about displacement. It could be horizontal. It could be vertical. It's guys getting washed down. It's guys getting knocked back. A double team gets under somebody and they get knocked back 2 or 3 or 4 yards. Or it's that horizontal piece, right? On that zone run. You're trying to cross an offensive lineman's face, but they're getting into you. They're washing you down this way. And it's easy for the running back just to go, wrong way and cut back, right? You're getting pushed this way. The running back falling apart. You get pushed this way, the running back just fits off that, right? And I think, again, that's symptomatic of the guys the Bills have on the interior. It's guys that aren't able to kind of anchor and put their foot in the ground and hold their gap. It is guys that are based on penetration. And to your point, it can't be shed and penetrate every player bust, but that's how they built their interior. So as disappointing as the run defense was at times, I thought on the film there were some more positives that I don't think got noticed on the broadcast, and I hope you guys were able to see that here. But I do think the theme of last year is still prevalent on this defense, which is they're going to have to win with penetration. They're going to have to win with numbers, and hopefully game script helps them out. I was encouraged again by that one that I showed, the stunt with Sanders and Solomon and Bernard comes through and Benford. You see all those pieces working in tandem. But again, that's another example of the coordination and the dance that run fitting is, where you need everybody synchronized and on the same page and seeing the same thing at the same time. And you're going here, I'm going there. Our moves are in sync. We're taking the right angles, all of that. It's hard to be that coordinated at all times. But the Ravens are a great run team. They're a great offense in general. They're a problem for all the defenses in the NFL, granted, especially so for the Buffalo Bills. So I don't think this was overall a good performance of the Bills run defense, but let's get some more sample size. I think the Jets are a good follow-up this week. Really good athletic quarterback, still a good offensive line, even though Elijah Vera Tucker is out. They're a team that wants to run the football. They want to mash. So it's a good follow-up. See what the Bills can do in trying to correct in some of these things. And again, they're not all of a sudden going to get bigger. They're not all of a sudden to become more stout. But what they can do is limit the times where you got two guys in one gap and something is uncovered. You can limit the times where you got 2, 3, 4 guys all getting walled off and creating a huge alley. You can mitigate some of that. But I do think, again, we'll see with sample size. I think Michael Hoyt coming back will help a little bit. Ogunjobi is just more of what they already have on the inside, which is inside rush and penetration. But I do think this is going to be something we'll monitor every week just because of the nature of what the Bills are. They're going to get theirs. They're going to get some tackles for loss. They're going to, gum some stuff up. They're going to get some stuffs. They are going to have stuffs in volume and from a stuff rate and percentage perspective. They're also going to give up 10-plus yard runs. They're going to give up some explosive. They're going to get gassed. They're going to get gouged. It is very sudden. It is very much, get them or get got. And that's how the Bills play defense. And I think that's what it's going to be for this year. The Ravens are a bad matchup for them, just like they are for most defenses, but especially so for the Bills. And we'll see what happens going forward. I do think there are some things that can clean up. It's not just doom and gloom where it's like, nope, they picked the wrong body types and the wrong guys. They're screwed, blah, blah, blah. Also sprinkle in, hopefully TJ Sanders learns and gets some time on task and gets better. Same thing for Deon Walker. You will add Larry Ogunjobi back. You will add Michael Hoyt. You can change up the rotation and do some different things schematically as well once Hoyt comes back. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom, even from a personnel perspective, even though I didn't love the personnel selections. I'm fine with some of the players, but just leaning into more of what they've already done frustrated me. And I think you folks know that just based off of how much I've talked about it this offseason. But we'll see what happens going forward. So I don't think this is a performance where you just write it off and say, well, the Ravens are super good and they're a unicorn in an offense, so screw it, we're 1-0, move on. I do think the problems that we saw in this game were some of the problems we saw last year in 2024. The advanced metrics that I read earlier in that game mirror several of those same exact metrics and rankings from 2024. So I do think the process matters a lot, not to kind of use that buzzword, but I do think it matters a lot for this defense. And nice comment. It says, Ted Washington, where are you? That's funny. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Thanks, Bob. Thank you for being here and for the super chat. Thank you very much for this. Bob says, I'll take moving forward for $20, Alex. And well played. Well played. Yeah. Got more games. Get under your belt. Go from there. You're going to get tested more in the run. The Ravens are a unicorn. You still would like to perform better against the better teams, especially if it's a team that you could likely very well see in the playoffs again. Pete says they did score more points than the other team. That's the greatest arithmetic of all. Very true. And, a win is a win. You're 1-0, on to bigger and better things, so on and so forth. And like James says, yeah, we've got 16 more games to improve. But I do think a lot of what we saw here will be things that we see going forward. We are going to see displacement throughout this year. You are going to see guys get washed down horizontally. Teams that run downhill, teams that want to run duo, you're going to see Deon Walker get driven back. You're going to see TJ Sanders get driven back. You're going to see Larry Ogunjobi kind of get driven back. Hold on. Nathan says the process hasn't gotten us a championship caliber defense. I don't mean the process. I mean more of I mean that more in relation to someone being like, oh, who cares? We're 1-0. Move on to the next game. I mean the process from the standpoint of how did you win the game or how did the game go? Because how sustainable was that win? Like this type of win for the Bills, I don't think is very sustainable. You can't give up 40 points every week and win the game. You can't be one of the worst teams in EPA per rush and give up 10 explosive runs per game and think you're going to win, even if you have a great offense, even if you have the MVP at quarterback, so on and so forth. Like, I mean more of that, like that type of process, not the traditional like Bills process or the 76ers process, whoever you want to go with for that. So I didn't mean it in that sense, but I appreciate you for that. And yeah, we'll see what they do going forward. Don't write this performance off, but take it as game one, see what they learn, course correct. They can't change the body types. They have to dance with the ones they brought, but I do think they can clean up several of the pieces like we showed in this one of guys being in the same gap, guys being out of position. And again, they shouldn't have to deal with too much craziness all the time because the Ravens have good scheme. They've got diverse personnel. They're well coached. They have a good play caller. guys who know how to press the buttons. So I don't think they're necessarily going to be baptized by fire like this every week, but keep an eye on this. This is something that I do think we will be covering a lot. I'm going to go into some more pieces here as we wind down, but if you folks enjoyed this episode, I'm not saying goodbye yet, but please let me know if you like this type of content, if you prefer this type of disguise coverage episode instead of just, Bills versus Jets matchup, Bills versus Dolphins matchup. And I know I do it differently than others. I know it's more schematic and X's and O's and the guests that I bring on. But if you folks like this content and this type of action, let me know in the chat now. Let me know on social, on Twitter, on Blue Sky. Let me know in the comments on YouTube. I hope you folks enjoyed this episode. Something that I always enjoy, One Pie Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. If you were in town for Bills Ravens, I hope you got yourself some One Pie Pizza because it is absolutely phenomenal. If you weren't in town for Bills Ravens, that's fine. The next time you are in town, come get yourself some One Pie Pizza. Delicious sweet sauce pie, cup and char pepperoni, homemade blue cheese. They make really great salads too, if that's your thing. They have a variety of pizza toppings and types, and whatever you get, they chop them up and sprinkle them all evenly across the pie. They also have a pizza named after Cover One and Josh Allen. It's called the Cover One Allen Goat because it has goat cheese on it and a variety of other amazing things. It really is the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. And I don't say that because they sponsor the show. They sponsor the show because I think they're the best pizza in Buffalo. So get yourself some One Pie Pizza. They also do a catering as well. They have a catering division called Elevated Catering of Buffalo. The links for the catering spot and for One Pie Pizza can both be found in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. And as I always say, they're really good people making really good food. They do a ton of giving back to the community, drives, initiatives, Toys for Tots, partnering with SPCA, or partnering with the SPCA, partnering with Roswell, partnering with the Alzheimer's Foundation. They're really good people making really good food. So get yourself some One Pie Pizza. Wanted to grab this comment. JJ says, I wonder if Jordan Phillips being elevated would have helped. I don't mean to be rude, but no, he does not have any run defense capability at all. He's another Deion Walker. And I don't mean that necessarily negatively, but he is not a run stopper. For as big of a dude as he is, he's not a plugger. He's not a space eater. He's not a block eater. He's not any of that. So I do not think Jordan Phillips would have helped. I also think at this stage, the miles on the tires and where he is, I don't think he has a lot left. So no, I don't think he would have helped, but who knows? I love this comment from Bob. Bob says, smash the like button. I hate to sell out for this. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams. And even just selfishly, it takes a lot to chop up all the film, put it together, narrate it, all that kind of stuff. So if you enjoyed this episode, whether you're watching live now, watching later, whatever have you, please, 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 and thank you. If you have not already, drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams. They matter a lot. I greatly appreciate them. They help the algorithm. They boost the episode. They boost the channel, all that stuff. So if you haven't already, please, 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 and thank you. Drop a like on this video. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate and review and subscribe to Disguise Coverage. If you're listening on one of the audio platforms, that's awesome. Leave a rating, leave a review. You can do it just to be nice and give 5 stars, or if you have an actual piece of feedback or review, feel free to let me know. Let me know in the comments here on YouTube. And I see your comment there, Joe. Oh, I like this from Joe. Joey says, I think the show is great. It gives you a multitude of different perspectives of offense, defense, and opponents. Show is on point. And thank you, Joey. I appreciate you for that. Thank you very much. So, yeah, hope you folks enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed this episode. There's a lot to put together, but we'll see what we do going forward here. And we'll see what we get for Bills Jets, another team that is going to test the Bills on the ground. Who knows? We might be back here next Tuesday at 9 p.m. doing the same episode with the breaking down the Buffalo Bills run defense versus the New York Jets, or it might be something different. So, we'll see what they do going forward. Again, I don't think it's complete time to panic. I do think if they play the Ravens in the playoffs again, it's going to be similar to this. And you can't just commit fully to stopping the run with Henry and Lamar if you've got Zay Flowers on the outside, if you've got Rashad Bateman on the outside. Again, in this game, they didn't have Likely, they didn't have Ricard, so they could meet the Ravens in the playoffs, and it could be even harder to go against them the next time from a chess piece standpoint and a personnel and schematic standpoint. Ricard helps a lot as a run blocker, but also in their play action game. They just do so much. So it could be harder the next time they play Baltimore. But we'll see. Maybe they're a better unit by then. Maybe they've cleaned up a lot of their run game fixes. I think that's definitely something to monitor. I hope you folks found a lot of value in this episode. I know like I talked about in the intro, there's so much to go through when it comes to the science and the schematics of run fits and spacing and coverage tied to the front and who's part of the run fit and who's not and how it all works. And I wanted to explain enough in this episode without bogging it down too much. So it's a happy medium. So I hope you found this episode entertaining, but also found value in it. Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, feedback, put it in the YouTube comments. Get at me on Twitter. Get at me on Blue Sky. Get at me in the Discord, whatever you got. Well, thank you very much again. Picks message with a super chat. Thank you for still being here. Thank you for the super chat. The comment is, Ant doesn't care how long it'll take. He puts the time in to make a great show. Hit the like. Thank you very much for that. That is true. I would do these shows for, you folks know, the Disguise coverage episodes in season are usually like 2 hours plus. But I'm trying to keep everything digestible for the viewer. Even though I love getting into as much detail as possible, I do want to keep things streamlined and digestible while also trying to give enough information. So it's a balancing act. I hope you folks enjoy this episode. Love this episode. It's good for the Bills to be 1-0. We'll see what happens this upcoming week. I'm going to throw up the Toodles, folks, banner because we're going to start to say goodbye. I appreciate all the kind words that are coming through from me right now. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody who watched live on this episode. Thank you very much. Picks message for both of your super chats. Thank you very much, Bob, to you for your super chat. All the questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, the back and forth with each other, the questions for myself. I know I didn't get to as many comments and engagement pieces as I normally do because I was into the film and running that. So again, if you have any questions, get at me on social, YouTube, whatever. Hope you folks enjoyed this episode. Thank you so very much for tuning in, whether live, post live, whatever have you. Drop a like. Rate, review, subscribe, turn on notifications on YouTube for the Disguise coverage playlist. Subscribe to the Cover One channel. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about this show and about how awesome it is, whether they're Bills fans, football fans, whatever. If you thought this episode was terrible, tell your enemies and try and ruin their day or night by making them watch this show. No one tech, no crazy big space eater on the interior. We'll see if the Bills can win with penetration and gap shooting and inside rush. It'll be something to monitor every week. Maybe we'll do that every week on the show. Maybe it'll be something else. I will see you tomorrow, Wednesday, September 10th, for another episode of the Cover One Film Room, where Eric Turner and I break down the offensive side of the ball. And yeah, hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well. And so, this is a good comment from James saying, also peace from Zen Clover. Peace. I appreciate you. James says, next week, pursuit angles. That's a huge piece. That's another episode in and of itself. Like, Rapp's angle on one, Bishop's angle on another. Really good comment. Pursuit angles are a huge piece. Something else that needs to be cleaned up. That's a whole nother aspect that, again, I like. Once I go down that rabbit hole, I can't stop. So yeah, pursuit angles I think goes hand in hand with being sound for gap assignments and run fits. Great call, James. Well said. Yeah, I hope you. Oh, great comment from Joey. When will the tree get the Halloween decorations? Once October hits. I'm not one of those start decorating for Halloween in September. I respect those who do, but I'm still just leaving it as Bills colors with a little, can't really see it. But I've also got, I can't see it with my name there. So I just wasted a whole bunch of time right now doing that. But essentially I've got Bills colors up top and then like a white and gold kind of celebratory garland, more for like, hey, start a football season type of deal. But I will be doing Halloween colors once October starts. I am not Halloween in September kind of guy. No disrespect. Shout out to those who do. That's just not me. Once October hits, we will be Halloween decorated. That's a great question. I wouldn't do this show if the tree wasn't on point. So I appreciate you for that, Joey. Thank you for all the kind words from everybody coming into the chat. I just don't pull them up because I think it's corny to pull up nice things about myself when I'm by myself doing these shows, but I see them and I significantly appreciate them. And I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. I will see you when I see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.